The grand hall of the Corinthian Empire shimmered with golden light, its vaulted ceilings draped in silken banners. Alien dignitaries filled the chamber, their jeweled eyes fixed upon the throne where the Empress herself stood, tall, radiant, and terrifying in her alien majesty. Her voice rang like a blade striking steel, cutting through the silence. "Is there no one brave enough to marry me?" Her words echoed across the marble chamber. One by one, suitors from across the galaxy, 100 noble warriors, cunning generals, and proud heirs, lowered their heads. Not a single one dared to meet her gaze. The Empress's beauty was undeniable. Her silver skin shimmered, her emerald hair flowed like liquid fire, and her presence filled the room with an aura of irresistible command. But beauty was not the problem. It was her reputation. For she was Zyra, the conqueror of 12 worlds, the war bride of empires, the breaker of kings. To marry her was not to win a queen, but to risk being consumed, body and soul. Every man who had stood at her side before had either been crushed beneath her power, or vanished in whispers of blood and shadow. And so silence filled the great hall, until one voice spoke. "I will." Heads turned. The crowd gasped. It was not a prince, not a general, not some towering warrior. It was a man in plain military garb, unadorned and unimpressive among the jeweled courtiers. Human. The Empress's glowing eyes narrowed. "And who," she asked, her tone a mixture of amusement and curiosity, "dares to step forward?" The human bowed his head, not with fear, but with calm respect. "My name is Daniel Hayes. I am no prince, no noble, just a soldier from Earth. But if no one else will stand, then I will." Beginning the challenge. Daniel hadn't planned to be here. Earth was new to the galactic stage, its people seen as fragile, short-lived, and irrelevant. He had been stationed as part of a small military exchange program, learning the languages and customs of the Corinthian Empire. He never imagined he'd find himself in the throne hall of the most feared woman in the galaxy. Yet here he stood, all eyes on him. The Empress descended from her throne, her movements slow, deliberate, and impossibly graceful. She circled Daniel like a predator circling prey. "You?" she asked, her voice dripping with both disdain and intrigue. "A human. One of the frail creatures with lifespans barely worth a blink. Do you even comprehend what it means to bind yourself to me?" Daniel lifted his chin. "I understand enough. You asked if there was no one brave enough. I am." The hall murmured, nobles whispering in disbelief. The Empress studied him, her gaze piercing as though she could see into the very marrow of his bones. "You risk not only your life," she said softly, "but your freedom, your very soul. My mates have not fared well. Do you still dare?" Daniel swallowed, but his voice did not waver. "Yes." For a long, tense moment, silence reigned. Then slowly the Empress smiled. "Very well, human. Let us see if your bravery is more than words." Middle, trials of the human. The Empress did not simply take Daniel as her husband. First he had to prove himself worthy. And so began the trials, rituals that had shattered every would-be suitor before him. The trial of strength came first. Daniel was pitted against towering beasts from alien worlds, creatures bred for war. He had no claws, no exoskeleton, no venom. But he had agility, cunning, and above all persistence. While others had charged blindly to their deaths, Daniel fought with strategy, using his environment, his tools, and his will. He did not overpower the beasts, but outlasted them, driving them to exhaustion before delivering his blows. The nobles scoffed at first, until he won. The trial of wit followed. He was placed in a chamber of shifting puzzles, each more complex than the last, designed to bend the mind to madness. Alien suitors with lifetimes of education had failed. But Daniel's mind, trained by Earth's endless complexity and human adaptability, found patterns where others saw chaos. He approached problems sideways, with solutions no Corethian could have imagined. When the chamber doors opened, he was standing calm and unbroken. And finally came the trial of heart. Here the Empress herself tested him. In her private garden, under a sky of twin moons, she confronted him with illusions of temptation and fear. Images of Earth destroyed, his loved ones screaming, his own body torn apart. She whispered promises of power, wealth, and immortality, if only he surrendered himself fully to her will. But Daniel stood firm. I don't want power. I don't want riches. You asked if there was no one brave enough. I'm here because you shouldn't have to stand alone. The illusions shattered. For the first time in many years, the Empress was silent. Transformation, the Empress's dilemma. No one had spoken to her like that in decades. All her life, Zyra had been treated as either an object of terror or of lust. Men feared her strength or sought to exploit her throne. But this human, this fragile, short-lived mortal creature, looked at her not as a conqueror, not as a prize, but as a person. And it unsettled her. In the days that followed, Daniel remained in the palace, treated as both an oddity and a subject of ridicule. Nobles whispered, "The Empress humors him. He will die like the rest." Yet Daniel did not flinch. He spoke to servants as equals, shared food with guards, even taught alien children Earth games. His warmth spread like wildfire. And to Zyra's surprise, she found herself watching him. One night, as they walked the palace gardens, she finally asked, "Why? Why risk yourself for me, human? You know what they say of me. You know the blood on my hands." Daniel looked up at the stars. Because everyone deserves someone who sees more than their reputation. You've built an empire, yes. You've made enemies. But I've also seen how you protect your people, how you feed the hungry, how you end wars by striking fear into tyrants worse than you. You don't need another coward or flatterer by your side. You need someone who believes in you. Her heart, long locked in armor, stirred. The climax. Betrayal in the palace. Not everyone welcomed this change. The High Chancellor, a scheming noble who had long sought to control the throne, saw Daniel as a threat. If the human truly won the Empress's heart, the Chancellor's influence would crumble. And so, one night, as Daniel walked the palace halls, assassins struck. Alien blades slashed, venom dripped, shadows closed in. Daniel fought with everything he had, but he was no superhuman. Wounds cut deep, blood poured, and he collapsed to the floor. The Empress arrived moments too late. She saw Daniel on the ground, struggling for breath, assassins fleeing into the shadows. And something inside her snapped. With a scream that shook the palace walls, she unleashed her full fury. Energy crackled from her body, obliterating walls, reducing assassins to ash. The High Chancellor's plot was revealed. His supporters dragged in chains. But none of it mattered to her in that moment. She fell to her knees beside Daniel, her hands trembling as she pressed them against his wounds. "Stay with me," she whispered, voice breaking. "Do not leave me too. Please." Her tears glowed like liquid fire. For the first time in centuries, the Empress wept. Daniel, weak but alive, smiled faintly. "I told you. I wasn't afraid." Ending the brave marriage.